listening to Wake Up Hollywood with Nikhil Korula and Eddie Pence, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Wake Up Hollywood. This is your host with the most, Nikhil Korula. We're going to jump right into this interview. We have special singer-songwriter Sam Williams with us. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. Thanks for having me on. And by the way, it's Sam L. Williams. That's my artist name. So just remember, there's a guy who's the great grandson of Hank Williams Sr. He's a country guy. He's big. His name's Sam Williams. So I go by Sam L. Williams, just to differentiate between myself and him.
Oh, that's awesome! So, I didn't know that. What's the L stand for? What's your middle name?
Well, it's a funny story about that, man. So my full name is Samuel L. Thomas Williams, and my parents told me that the L could stand for whatever I want. And when I was getting ready to release music again after having not released anything in a long time, I decided I wanted to change my artist name because I didn't want to go by Sam Williams, because I didn't want to compete with the other big Sam Williams guy out there who has the same name as I do, because my full name is Samuel L. Thomas Williams. So I didn't want to go by Sam Williams to compete with him. So I got the shirt right here. This is my Sam L. Williams merch, and my brother-in-law actually suggested I go by Sam L. Williams because of this merch they have right here, the L in there, and it goes with my name because it's my full name is Samuel L. Thomas Williams. So yeah, so I go by Sam L. Williams. So yeah,
that's awesome, very cool. And
yeah,
what was the moment of Zen that made you kind of want to be a musician or a songwriter? Do you remember the song that you heard that made you kind of fall?
I was before I started writing songs, I was raised on some of the greatest music ever written and recorded in the history of popular music. I'm talking about the vintage rock and roll era, not necessarily the classic rock, the Leonard Skinner, Led Zeppelin, Allman Brothers. I'm talking like oldies. I'm talking about late 50s, rock and roll, all the way into the early 60s, the Brill Building music, the British Invasion, all that stuff, Motown. I was raised on all of that. And, at the time I wasn't 100% into music. I had a whole nother side interest that I had. But once I realized I had a natural gift and a talent and ability to write songs, and when I was in high school, and play musical instruments in time and sing on pitch, that's why I decided I got to do this for the rest of my life. This is it. And basically, but before I was writing songs, I was a fan of this music first because I fell in love with all the great music of the 60s, and late 50s, mostly 60s. And, that's when I went to school to learn how to arrange and how to produce and how to, and how to write, was from listening to that music first. And then I started writing when I was in high school. So, yeah.
And did you start with guitar? Did you start with another?
I started with bass. Bass was the first instrument I learned how to play, man. I learned how to play bass when I was in middle school, and I think a little bit elementary school too. I started with bass and then guitar when I was in freshman year, and then piano and drums later, a little later on in high school. But I started with bass, man. In fact, just before I was writing songs, I was learning how to play James Jamerson bass lines, and learning how to play stuff, and so I became a really good bass player first, and pretty solid rhythm guitar player, and then I started writing songs, and yeah, it was basically around junior year of high school is when I started to write. So yeah.
Did you start with a 60s style bass? What did you learn on?
Oh, I can actually show you the bass that I have. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to show you the bass that I have. That is basically, check this out, man. I've only had one bass for my entire life, and this is it.
That's awesome.
This is a one of a kind bass. This is a Squire P bass, but I had flats put on it. I had these little metal bridge and pickup covers on it, and I, recently added the phone to it, and I had this little tug bar too. But yeah, this is
That's
my work.
awesome.
That's my workhorse, man. As far as musical instruments is concerned, I'm probably technically the best at playing bass. Not a piano player. I mean, I can definitely play rhythm guitar. Not a lead guitar player, but I can definitely shred on bass. And this is like it's my first love when it came to music, man. Was just bass,
That's awesome. That's awesome. And who was the first person to put a bass in your hands? Was it a music teacher or was it?
It was mostly me. I mean, like I said, man, I started as a fan of this music, and I was a fan first of this stuff. I was listening to oldies radio when I was a kid, growing up, listening to Curious 101 when I was a kid, and then I decided, let me try, the music thing and see if it works out. And then I started an upright bass, didn't last very long, and then I picked up that electric bass, and when I figured out I was a really good bass player, I thought, shit, this is great. I have a natural talent and gift and ability for this. So yeah, that's when I decided, like, this is it. So yeah, man.
Would you say James Jamerson was your favorite bassist?
Well, when I started getting schooled into rock and roll history, and I started learning about studio musicians in the '60s, when I learned about who were the session players in Memphis, Nashville, New York, Detroit, LA, and other places. My first love as a bass player was James Jamerson, but then I grew to love other bass players who were playing on other records at the time, just from doing my own research about this stuff, so.
That's awesome. That's super
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
it's like I feel like bass is the most important instrument in a band because it's the only one that's rhythm and pulse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And also, but mostly, when I play bass, I'm not thinking about trying to write something. I'm just thinking more of just like a jam instrument, just to practice, just to get my chops up. But when I'm on the piano, on the other hand, I'm trying to write a fucking song. And
Right.
same with guitar. Like, I'm literally trying to create when I pick up those instruments. Like, but when I'm on the bass, I'm jamming. That's it. Like, especially same thing when I'm playing drums. Playing drums and just playing other songs, playing bass, so I'm trying to learn other people's songs. But when I definitely pick up the guitar and the piano, or either one of those instruments, I'm trying to write something. I'm literally trying to create.
That's awesome. Do you play with a pick or do you play with your fingers?
I play both, actually. I've done both pick and fingers. So.
Yeah, it's funny. I play a little bass and I use my thumb a lot. Like, I've used the pick, but I don't love the pick, but I use my thumb as kind of like a Wes Montgomery thing with bass because I like the response.
Yeah. I'm more of a fingers guy, but
it's hard. Yeah.
I'm more of a fingers guy, but I mainly play bass now when I'm recording one of my original songs. And
Right.
depending on what style of music I'm writing, within what genre I'm writing this song in, that's when I decided whether or not I want to use pick or fingers. So.
Yeah, the hard
But
thing for me is the muting of the string. That's like a whole other science.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely, man. Yeah.
That's where it's like I'm like I can stick to guitar and piano, but bass when I need to play it, I know I can whip it out and start throwing down some love.
Definitely.
But I won't ever like take a gig where I'm like, yeah, I'll be your bass player. I'm like, no. There's so many great bass players.
I hear you, man. Definitely. I feel the same way about lead guitar. I can't play lead guitar to save my own life. I'm a rhythm guy. I can do chords for sure. In fact, I learned how to play without a capo, so I know how to play some pretty fancy chords on guitar.
That's cool.
But I'm not a lead guy whatsoever. But like I said, when I play those instruments, I'm trying to write mostly, guitar and piano. So. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your creative process. Like, do you start with a lyric? Do you start with chords?
Well, to be honest with you, man, a lot of the songs I've written, a lot of it is like I had the life experience with either someone or something, and then the lyrics just come. I have the life experience, and then I whip out the notes app on my phone, and I just lyrical vomit a bunch of lyrics, and then I go to the piano and the guitar almost immediately. And I start playing chords, and I start singing a melody to go along with the lyrics I've written. But most of the time, I would say the easiest songs I've ever written were the ones where I was inspired by someone or something in my life, and you know, I had felt that inspiration, that sort of kick in the butt, you know, if you know what I mean, just sort of that jolt of, you know, lightning, sort of that inspiration that happens when I have that experience with someone or something. And then I write the lyrics. I write the whole song lyrically, front to back, verses, choruses, pre-choruses, bridge, the whole thing. And then I sit down at the piano, and you know, and I start coming up with the music. I pick a key that I haven't written in a song in a while, and then, I mean, I know my theory pretty well, so I know my way around all 12 keys, and I know, you know, all the different tricks of the trade when it comes to coming up with different chord progressions, you know. So it just comes really naturally to me, you know. So
that's awesome. And do you produce all your own stuff? Do you record your own stuff?
Yeah. So I produce all my own demos, man. I produce all the demos that I do, you know. And the last EP that I recorded was done at a professional studio. I produced those songs, but I didn't engineer them. I had someone else be the engineer. I used their studio, I used their equipment, and they brought in a lot of their musicians to play on the songs.
Right.
But you know, I produce everything, man. I'm the captain of the ship, you know. I mean, that's so important after I write a song, is figuring out what the arrangement is going to sound like, what everything is going to sound like with all the different instruments, you know, going on at the same time. And that's one of the funnest parts about the creative process when it comes to music, is arranging. It's just coming up with all the different parts, all the different instruments, you know. I love that, you know. So but I bet, seriously, I'm the captain of the ship. I know exactly what I want when I'm in the studio. It's like boom, you know. It's like it's like I try to have a vision for each song that I write. When I produce, I try to know try to have a vision for what the song's going to sound like, but the full instrumentation, you know. So yeah, man.
Cool. Well, I'm going to let my station owner and engineer, Sam, choose the first song, and we're going to talk about it, all right? So this is going to be a blind, random choice of one of your songs.
Okay.
Sam, away. Here we go.
Come my way, that she would see something in me that no other girls can see, that she would give me an opportunity. They say it comes when you don't expect it at all. Well, I guess that's true, 'cause I didn't see this coming at all. I'm as happy as a man could be, 'cause I sure am glad this is a possibility. Some months went by and I found out that it wasn't in the cards for me, 'cause then she told me that she just isn't free. But when things started out between her and him, they try to share what they have, but then they realized they just didn't want to do that. I didn't see this coming at all. But now that I know that she wants me, I'm as happy as a man could be, 'cause I sure am glad this is a possibility. 'Cause I sure am glad this is a possibility. 'Cause I sure am glad this is a possibility. 'Cause I sure am.
awesome. Tell me the inspiration behind that song.
Oh man. It's kind of a crazy story, but one thing I'll say about this is that it's the thing is about possibility is that it's 100% a true story. None of the lyrics in the song are fabricated. None of it is sort of like one of those songs where it's like I'm exaggerating some of the details or like
Right.
it's a true story. It is written about somebody specific, and it is about a specific situation that I went through about 3 years ago. And it's the best way to describe the song to you. If I had to do it in like one sentence, it's a song about the one that got away. And there's something to be said about that because when it comes to like especially pop and rock and roll songs and R&B soul songs, there's a million love songs out there about getting together with a girl and like everything works out, everything's cool. And then there's a million breakup songs. There's probably even more breakup songs out there where it's like it's like the relationship ends and it's a tragic ending, and then things change, and then it doesn't work out, and then you're trying to move on, you're trying to get to the next person. But this song isn't one of those songs. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit more painful because this is one of those songs. It's about the one that got away, because it's about someone I could have had but didn't get. It's a little different than a lot of other breakup songs because a breakup song, it's like you get the person and then you lose them. So it's a change, it's an awkward change. But this song is basically it's about someone I could have had but never got, and that's the thing. And there's a whole story behind why it didn't work out and like what happened that caused this situation to not work out in my favor. But but basically give you the gist of it. It's literally about the one that got away, and there's not enough songs out there about that, frankly, because there's more breakup songs and love songs as more people experience wins than loses. But this is about something different, because I don't think this is sort of a universal thing everybody goes through, because it's about someone you could have had but didn't get. So this is sort of, but that's basically what that song is about. So
that's awesome. And then did you play the bass on that one or no?
Oh hell yeah, man! I played the bass. I played the piano. I played. I came up with that riff, and it's so crazy, man.
Cool.
I woke up with that riff in my brain, and it's so crazy. I woke up with that riff in my brain, and I forgot about it. It completely left my brain, and then it came back. And then as soon as it came back, I put down my voice memo on my phone and recorded that riff. And I will say that the song was sort of written in real time. I had the riff, and then I came up with the chords. And then the situation was happening that inspired me to write the song when I was writing it. So I came up with the lyrics to fit with what I was, the melody and chords I came up with on guitar, in that riff. And then, as the situation unfolded, that's when I finished the song, because I initially had two bridges written for the song. It was sort of like the first bridge I wrote didn't make it into the final cut because it wasn't exactly it didn't match the details that were presenting themselves to me in the situation I wrote the song. So I wrote a different bridge to basically tell the true story of what actually happened, But yeah, so basically that was one of the songs that I wrote the music first and then the lyrics. But then the situation was happening in real time when I wrote the music, so it just pretty much wrote itself. So yeah.
And I heard some bells. Was it a dulcimer that you played? Was it a
so that's a marimba, actually. That's a marimba.
Okay.
So it's a marimba, and I played that on the MIDI keyboard, and
That's cool.
I and the saxophone solo I played on the MIDI keyboard too, but I just had a guy, basically I played on the MIDI keyboard, and then they sent it to the saxophone player, and he copied exactly what I played on the MIDI keyboard. So that's my solo note for note, pretty much.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
must have been fun to hear your solo realized by a real saxophonist, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was really cool. Yeah, I mean, I just punched that in MIDI and Logic, and then they sent the MIDI part to the saxophone player, and he just played exactly what I played on Punch in Logic on the MIDI keyboard. So yeah, man.
That's cool. That's cool. So do you kind of like to construct everything, or are you kind of open to other players adding their kind of special sauce to what they do?
Well, Turquoise Apricot, that song, I don't know if you heard it, but that all those guitar solos, he made those up. He just knew the key that the chords to the song, and he just made up those solos. So yeah, I mean, I'm open to it, but for the most part, like if I have specific parts that I want musicians to play, I'm like, play this part, because like I said, I'm like the captain of the ship in the studio, man. I know exactly what I want, So yeah, man. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and who do you think you draw your inspiration from the most? Like,
for songwriting, definitely the Brill Building, 100%. So like Jerry Goffin, Carole King, Barry Mann, Cynthia Weil, Burt Bacharach and Hal David, Jimmy Webb, Brian Wilson, like 100%. The Brill Building, and also the West Coast too, like Brian Wilson, Jimmy Webb, guys like that, Like
I met Burt Bacharach when I was in a session.
Wow, that's amazing.
It was pretty crazy. I was in a mastering session, and
wow,
the mastering engineer at the time was like, "Hey, I've got a client coming in, so do you mind if we just take like a 5-minute break?" I said, "No problem." And then in walks Burt Bacharach, and that was his client. That was
God.
In. So like I went and I was like, "Hey man, great to meet you." And then I went to my car and I was listening to references of the master. And then one of the studio technicians came in, said he knocked on my door and he said, "Hey, Burt Bacharach wants to see you." And I was like, "Oh my God, did I mess something up?" So I walked back in and he's like, "Hey, I just wanted to thank you for letting me crash your session." And I said, "You're Burt Bacharach. Like, of course, you can crash any of my sessions, And he was so cool. And I just thought that was such a classy move that he did that, because he didn't know me.
I'm a lot like Burt Bacharach in many ways, because one, I'm a huge fan of harmony. I love chord progressions. I love doing unique, interesting, unexpected chord changes. I love coming up with stuff like that. And like I said, Burt is a lot like me, because when Burt was in the studio, man, he was the captain of the ship. He did things his way. He did not let the musicians improvise or come up with their own parts. He was like, you know what? I'm going to write out parts for the musicians. They're going to play them exactly how I would write them, how he wrote them, So, and he would show guys what to do, man, in the studio. He really was the captain of the ship. It was like you did things his way in the studio for sure, man. Yeah.
And he was like always working, like up until I have a friend that she's been my violinist on a couple tracks. And
is it Eliza James?
Yeah, Eliza James. She was his touring musician for a long time.
I know her. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
she used to just rave about how sweet he was and how much he always wanted to work and
play. Definitely.
In his 90s and still doing it. It's like,
I know, man. Absolutely, man. Yeah, definitely.
Well, let's play another song. I'm going to let Sam choose the next one. So this is going to be a blind test number 2. Let's play it again, Sam. Play something else.
Turquoise apricot, she tastes better than anything that you got. I felt so good about her, right on the spot, 'cause my girlfriend's a turquoise apricot. Section I've always wanted to explore. Now I don't want to eat anything else anymore. Oh, no, no, no. I love peeling off her outer cover, but man, was I surprised to discover that she didn't need no other lover. Oh, no, no, no. 'Cause my girlfriend's a turquoise apricot. She tastes better than anything that you got. I felt so good about her, right on the spot. 'Cause my girlfriend's a turquoise apricot. A second try, then an amber pomegranate caught my eye, and now I feel like saying goodbye. Oh, 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 oh. my turquoise apricot glow. Now my amber pomegranate is the star of the show. I'm so happy that I finally got to let it know. Oh, 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 oh. That she's my brand new turquoise apricot. She tastes better than anything that you've got. I felt so good about her, right on the spot, 'cause she's my brand new turquoise apricot. 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 Apricot.
Very cool. I like the shopping cart cam.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was really fun to make that music video. I had a really good time doing it, you know.
And you're wearing the same shirt. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. That's my merch, man. Sam L. Williams, baby. Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So tell me what the concept behind the music video was.
So basically, man, it's funny thing about that music video. So there were two different shoots for that music video, and there's a reason for this being. Because there's two different versions of that song, man, and I've released both actually. I recorded that song originally at my home studio in I started recording it back in 2016, and I finished mixing and mastering it like during the pandemic. And my recording teacher I had at the time actually mixed and mastered it for me. But then the thing is that when I was producing that demo. And when I was making that version of that song, I wasn't 100% happy with the results of the recording of that song. I felt like there were some timing issues with the production. I wasn't 100% satisfied with it. So I really wanted. Bottom line is I really wanted to re-record that song and do a different version of it, but still the same song. Just So I want to re-record it in a professional studio with like real equipment and like really and get it sounding right, and not just like a home studio demo, But basically, when it came time to doing that, when I was working with my vocal teacher and the guy and her husband who engineered and mixed, that song, basically, when I was talking to her about re-recording that song, she was telling me, "Hey Sam, since it's a psychedelic rock song, why don't you do like a long extended version of it?" And I'm like, "Yes, that's it. That's it. The reason why I wanted to why that was such a brilliant idea is because it's in true form to the genre the song is in, man. Because back in those days, man, in the late '60s, and with Doors and Strawberry Alarm Clock and all those
Yep.
psychedelic rock bands like Vanilla Fudge, a lot of times they had the long version for the
Right.
album, and then
Right.
and then
Radio edit. Yep.
the AM radio cut, the radio edit, exactly. So I thought to myself, that's perfect. We need to re-record that song and do a long extended version of it, and that was absolutely brilliant. And so basically, the long story short is that there's two different shoots because the first shoot was to the old version of the song, and then I re-recorded it, and then we did a different shoot, and then we shot some additional footage for the music video, to match up with the new version of the song that I recorded,
So
So,
what's the significance of the
man,
turquoise
pretty much.
apricot?
You know what, man? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. That's the funny thing about it. So, the thing is about the song is that, it's the thing. It's meant to. The lyrics are literally supposed to mean absolutely jack shit. They're supposed to be nonsensical. They're not supposed to. They're not supposed to make any sense. I've never done LSD or mushrooms. I was literally trying to get into the character of somebody who was doing LSD mushrooms, who was hallucinating that this girlfriend that he has is a turquoise apricot. So it was totally from my imagination. Essentially the real truth about it is that I wanted to write a psychedelic rock song, because I hadn't written a psychedelic rock song before, and it's a genre of '60s that I haven't covered yet. And so I thought to myself, well, why don't I write a song I'll take a random exotic fruit and a random exotic color, and then basically write a song surrounding those two things. And that's how that song came to be. And that's when I started writing it. That's when I came up with a story about him falling over the turquoise apricot, and then then finding the anna pomegranate. It's just like, again, it's like, I'm on LSD, and LSD makes you hallucinate, and or at least I'm pretending to be like that. I've never actually done the drug, so yeah.
That's cool. And you made it psychedelic with all the water, light, imagery.
Yeah, and the woolly mammoth bass and the Farfisa organ, and the wild fuzz and wah wah guitar effects. I mean, and that's definitely not me playing lead guitar. I did not want to play. I'm not a lead guitar player at all. So they brought in somebody to play that lead guitar. So yeah.
That's awesome. And when did you write that song, and like kind of?
Oh man, so that's actually a really old song. I wrote that back in 2016. I wrote that just after I turned 21. So I wrote that song back like in 2016. And I started recording the original version that you can also stream back then too. So it's that song goes back quite a ways for sure.
And do you ever play out? Do you perform these songs live?
Yeah. I mean, I've done a bunch of shows at Bar Lubitsch in West Hollywood, and it's easy because I know the booker and he's booked me before, but I haven't played at a bunch of other places, to be honest with you. That's the main place I played at in recent years. But yeah, I've done the songs at Bar Lubitsch a bunch of times. It's like a place I played at a bunch before. So yeah.
Now, as a new artist, like what do you think is the atmosphere or the market with new artists and getting music out? Like, how do you feel about it? And what are the uphill battles and what are the joys about it?
Well, I think I think artificial intelligence might be an issue, but I feel like that because of just all the limitless possibilities you can do with artificial intelligence, and there's no real safeguards or guardrails, preventing that technology from going way out of hand. But I still feel like for now, as long as live music is around, people still want to hear music written and recorded by humans. And I feel like as long as shows and movies and commercials are getting made, they're gonna need music. And I feel like the sync marketplace is always going to need songs, and they're going to need all types of songs. Right. So I feel like the sync marketplace is always going to be a good place for musicians to make money. So yeah.
That's awesome. And do you usually kind of are you reading books that inspire you, or listening to artists that are kind of like
Well,
New
I listen to
inspiring?
Sirius XM radio a lot. To be honest with you, I mostly listen to oldies radio these days. I listen to a channel called 60s Gold on Sirius XM radio. I mostly listen to oldies radio because that's what I love. I love
Right,
music from back then. And
right.
but I also do a podcast too, man. You know, I've sat down and interviewed a lot of people who made that music back then. I've gotten the stories behind a lot of great music from back then. So I've
Cool.
had conversations with a lot of those people, and I'm a real like rock and roll music historian. And if it's new, it's mostly like throwback music. It's not like uh, you know, uh, what's her name? Just a sort of like it's not like Dua Lipa and stuff like that. It's just like it's like throwback, old school music, real organic stuff. Music that could have been written and recorded back in the '60s. That's what I
I love that.
grab.
There's not a lot of people your age that are obsessed with 60s music
I
and
know, man. There isn't, and it's
best.
a shame because it's some of the greatest fucking music ever written and recorded, and it's so good. And I really want younger people to go crazy about this stuff because the generation that heard this music when it was new, they're on their way out, man, because they're boomers and they're starting to have health problems. And
Yep.
it's so sad because this music was so good, it doesn't deserve to die. It really doesn't. It needs to be passed on next generation, man. And I truly believe that. If people my age can like the Beatles and other, they can like other stuff from that era too, besides the Beatles, for sure.
Well, that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons I did a bunch of Hendrix covers on my latest Blues Trio record because he's like one of the greatest. And, a lot of people in this new generation, they don't really know his music or why he's so great. And to me, that's
I would agree, but there's also tons of other groups from that era. A lot of people my age don't know about, like the
right.
Rascals, 11 Spoonful, Tommy James and
Yep.
Shondells, the Turtles. A lot of people know about the Four Seasons, Frankie Valley because of Jersey Boys, but there's just tons of stuff from that era that
Yeah.
my generation needs to be schooled on for real.
Right.
And they also need to be schooled on the people who wrote these songs, where they were
Even like
recorded,
a songwriter like Donovan,
what kind of yeah, exactly, man, like what kind of tape machines they were using, like who the studio musicians were, like who the arrangers were, like all they need to be schooled in all of that. And when I'm doing my podcast is that I'm getting these people on right now who are still alive, to try to get younger people to be in it, to be not only into the stuff but also be schooled on the history about it. So yeah, man.
what's like the most fascinating story you've heard while doing the podcast? Like asking somebody something about a song or how it was recorded.
Well, I interviewed the guy who came up with the trumpet part in Sweet Caroline,
Oh,
and
that's cool.
he told me that he got the job by mistake because Neil Diamond's producer thought he arranged "Can't Take My Eyes Off You," but he didn't. But he still got the job, and he heard the track without the trumpet part, and he thought the song was kind of boring. So I thought, why don't I do my job as an arranger and dress it up a little bit? So he came up with the trumpet. There was two trumpets and two trombones that he used because he thought the Bee Gees would be, because the Bee Gees at the time were using that same combination of horns, for their late '60s stuff. So that's why he decided to do that. And he brought in musicians to play on that, two trumpets and two trombones and the string section. And when he played what he was doing with the arrangement of the song, what he was recording with Neil Diamond, he asked Neil, said, "Hey man, what do you think of this?" And Neil's like, "Well, I didn't hear anything I didn't like." He was pretty much neutral. He was like, he didn't hate it, he didn't love it, and then basically he left. And he thought, "Man, did I screw up here? I thought I didn't do a good job." And then basically, Neil never called him back. He never worked with him ever again. So
Really?
and Neil hasn't talked to Neil since 1969. So
Wow, that's crazy, especially with like such an iconic part. I mean, everybody knows that.
yeah, man, absolutely. And
Ba-ba-da,
my follow up question to him was who the studio musicians he got to play on that, and that's I'm not going to say that because the thing is that you won't find that information anywhere else on the internet because those guys never got credit. Those are
Right.
uncredited studio musicians, and
That's
part of what I
great.
do on my podcast is I do a premium subscription feed for these interviews, and I ask these people these questions, and I get this information out of them, and I want people to pay for it because it's just exclusive hard to find information that you won't find anywhere else.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so yeah,
That's it.
man, yeah. So
That's
yeah.
very. How long you been doing the '60s podcast?
Well, I started doing it in 2018, but I've only been doing the premium subscription feed for the new interviews that I've been doing since 2022. It's only for the past couple of years. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, let's play something else. I think we got another song in the fold. So
Yeah.
let's play this last one, and then we'll talk about it. Here comes.
Too much to
Girl, I've known you for a long time, and you sure did act like you wanted to be mine. You wanted to get close to me and not break away immediately. And I felt like you were giving me green light, but it didn't take me long to see that light was distorted and not in plain sight. I couldn't escalate with you because you just had too much to drink. Even if you wanted me to, girl, you just had too much to drink. I couldn't escalate with you because you just had too much to drink. Even if you wanted me to, girl, you just had too much to drink. It feels like I'm getting better with girls, but is that really true? 'Cause in that moment in time, I didn't know what to do with you. Your touch was telling me we should go somewhere else, at the place that we were at. But since you were a little on the tipsy side, I knew I just didn't want to make you so mad. I couldn't escalate with you because you just had too much to drink. Even if you wanted me to, girl, you just had too much to drink. I couldn't escalate with you because you just had too much to drink. Even if you wanted me to, girl, you just had too much to drink. After we saw each other, you were trying to cover it up. But are you gonna do that forever? Or someday will you fess up to how you really feel about me? Like when you had too much to drink. I couldn't escalate with you because you just had too much to drink. Even if you wanted me to, girl, you just had too much to drink. I couldn't escalate with you because you just had too much to drink. Even if you wanted me to, girl, you just had too much to drink.
Yeah. What's the name of that song?
It's called Too Much to Drink, man. That's the name of it.
And tell me about the inspiration behind that. What made you
Oh
write that?
man, so I was at this show, right? And I was at a friend of mine's show, and I saw this girl that I hadn't seen since before the pandemic. And the thing is that you know, oftentimes when you go to these like indie shows in LA, a lot of times it's a lot of small talk, a lot of hey, how's it going? What are you up to? And then someone will say, nice, that's cool. And then you just have a bunch of, you know, just a lot of just pointless small talk, you know, a lot of times when you talk to these people. But you know, the conversation I had with this girl, man, it was fucking out of this world. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it was just like, it was so different than a lot of other conversations I've had with other girls at bars. I mean, it was just insane because like she was doing like 80% of the talking and I was doing like 20%. And she was like, she was like also like there was a lot of this, you know, touching going on because she was acting very submissive when I was talking to her, and like, you know, there was a lot of sexual conversation going on between us, and it was just crazy because I never had a conversation with a girl like this before at a bar. But the thing is that what happened was that during the conversation, I realized that she had a little too much to drink, and she was just, you know, and I realized that, you know what, you know, wouldn't be I probably shouldn't go all the way with her. I should probably just not do that, you know, because I probably wouldn't be the best idea. You
Right.
know, I mean, even though she was just, the thing is that she also wasn't like completely shit faced drunk. She was just a little tipsy. She wasn't like, and also it kind of seemed like, you know, when I were talking to each other, I'd known this girl for like over 10 years. So you know, I feel like, you know, she was sort of confessing my feelings to her and being the most honest with me because when she was a little bit drunk, because we've known each other for such a long time, you
Right.
know. And yeah, so it's just that, it was just that conversation was so euphoric and so just like, you know, just, you know, unlike any other conversation you have with any girl at a bar since, you know, at the time and since, you know.
Right.
And it's just, I had to write a song about it, you know. So yeah.
That's cool. You got something out of it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And what was the instrumentation that you kind of chose to kind of like,
Oh
paint the
man, I
song?
was going full on Phil Spector, Wall of Sound, you know, Brian Wilson, Beach Boys, Pet Sounds, but but actually, I borrowed a lot from Phil Spector, and particularly, I was very much influenced by Barry Mann, Cynthia Weil, and the way they wrote their songs for like the Righteous Brothers, and
Yep.
same thing with Jerry Goffin and Carole King. I was pulling directly from those writers. You know, when, you know, just once in my life, and you've lost a love and feeling were exact reference tracks for these songs
Did you know
because
that? Did
it's,
you know that Cher sang background vocals on that song?
yes, yes,
So crazy!
yes,
I just found that
yes,
out. Like,
she
listen
did,
to
yes, she did, absolutely.
her and
Yeah,
Darlene Love. They were the background.
I interviewed a guy who played on You've Lost a Loving Feeling.
Wow.
His name's Don Peak. Yeah, he was a guitar player on that session. But yeah, man, I mean, that's exactly what I was going for. Everything from like the 6 string bass part, you know, to the Barry saxophone, to the marimba. I mean, everything was totally like Wall of Sound. It even has like the similar structure to like those Wall of Sound Righteous Brothers records. It's got the same like build up. It's got the same sort of length to the verses. It's got like, you know, it's even got that chord note triplet thing build up in the pre-chorus of bum bum bum. I mean, I totally got that from like, you know, Phil Spector, Barry Manson, the Wild Righteous Brothers records.
Yeah.
You know, it's just you know, I totally got that from them. You know, the L.A. sort of wrecking crew sound of, you know, the Barry sax, you know, the organ, you know, everything. You know, it was totally you know, that vibe for sure.
That's awesome. And what you have some recording projects coming up, right? You're working on some.
Yeah, so basically, I'm doing a crowdfunding campaign for my next EP. That's what I'm doing right now. I've been demoing new stuff out at home for a while, but I recently decided that I really don't want to release these demos. I mean, they sound pretty good, but after going in the pro studio and recording and not being the engineer, I thought to myself, I want to keep doing this. I much prefer this than releasing my home studio demos, you know, because I don't have like $1,000 equipment to be able to, you know, record stuff that even remotely close to stuff I just put out. So but I'm crowdfunding for the next EP right now, and I'm demoing stuff out at home, and you know, I got performance video of those new songs, but for I want to release what I do is I want to re-record those songs in the studio I used before, and I'm raising money to go back in the studio to do that. And you know, once I hit
You
my
got
goal, then
you got to
yeah.
record the analog tape because that's how
Oh,
they
I
did it.
know, I know, but you know, I mean, you know, tape had, you know, had a lot of, you know, issues too. You know, it's just it wasn't like all as cool as, you know, like cutting tape with a razor blade and doing all that was just, you know, it's a lot for those engineers back then. You know. So
Yeah,
and
yeah. I've recorded a tape a couple times. I've never had to edit with the razor blade. I kind of try to just do it if we can.
But a lot of engineers did have to do that back then. You know?
Oh yeah.
So,
I don't. I try to avoid it because I can't imagine that it's ever a good thing to cut tape. But I mean, that's you know what I mean. That's like part of the process. So it's about finding the engineers that are good at it. But I just never wanted to cut the tape. I'm like, no, that's too much. Too much commitment into. If somebody makes a mistake, then it's just,
exactly, definitely,
But you have to record analog tape. It is a special experience for sure. It brings out those 65s out. Where can people find you if they want to find you online?
So, Instagram and TikTok handle iHeartOldies. Remember that it's like iHeartRadio except with oldies in the title. So iHeartOldies. That's Instagram and TikTok. Artist name Sam L. Williams. Sam capital L. Williams. If you just type in Sam LW, you'll find me right on Spotify. My podcast, it's called The Millennial Throwback Machine. I have 2 versions. I have a free version where I break down the 60 songs, analyze them, talk about the history behind them. And then the premium subscription version has all the new interview episodes that I'm doing, where I'm bringing in these 60s music legends and getting their history behind these songs now while they're still alive before it's too late, before they croak. And that's the Millennial Throwback Machine Premium. And, and I have a bunch of interviews that I'm releasing every month, to that premium feed. And it's not that expensive. It's like a cup of coffee a month and you get a few months free. It's like $4.99 a month, and you get a few months free. And you get access to all the new interview episodes I'm doing. And some of them have been in person, so you'll get to see some of them as well as listen to them, because most of the time they're over the phone. But yeah, that's and the free version it's just me. That's all it is. Just me breaking down the songs, analyzing them. But Sam L. Williams, where you'll find all the music. I have 2 EPs out, and like I said, I'm crowdfunding for the next one. So I have a GoFundMe campaign set up now for that. So
Well, you're a busy man, Sam, and we're happy to have featured you on Wake Up Hollywood. Thanks so much for being a guest, and have a happy Thanksgiving, dude.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Same to you, man. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you letting me come on here and letting me share the stories behind my songs. I love talking about, what inspired me to write the song, because I have a really good memory, as you can tell. And I love talking about, I'm always down to talk about 60s rock and roll history because I love that shit. I love that music. It's amazing stuff, man. So I'm always down to talk about that and, talk about my influences. And, it's, I love sharing, what inspired me to write the songs, because like I said, I just remember, I just have a very vivid memory of what inspired me to write those songs, so.
Well, right on. You got to keep that music fire glowing bright, man. And, on behalf of Sam, myself, and our other Sam, the station owner and engineer, have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We'll see you next week. And
there's my logo, Sam O. Williams.
That's right.
Sam O. Williams, man. Yep.
Peace, love, and hair grease.
Exactly, man.
You're listening to Wake Up Hollywood with Nikhil Korula and Eddie Pence, right here on LA Talk Radio.